African Americans equals an unlikely merger. African bodies are the most advanced in the world because they have had the most time to become efficient at adapting to its environment. Running is the foremost indicator of athletic capacity, and people of African descent dominate because of their will, environment, and natural genetics. The adaptive properties of African bodies suggest that whatever African people do consistently and receive accolades for within their communities, their bodies will modify itself, creating new capacity so that it may excel. Take East African distance runners. East Africans were once thought to have a higher percentage of slow twitch muscle fibers, which would explain why they have the ability to sustain certain speeds for longer periods of time. However, they have since been found to actually have a very high percentage of fast twitch muscle fibers. This goes contrary to what people believe about endurance activity. Fast twitch muscle fibers fatigue faster and are better equipped for explosive, high-force, short-duration activities. However, the fast twitch muscle fibers that dominate most East African muscular systems have been shown to possess highly oxidative characteristics. Their bodies modified themselves to adapt to the process it needed to do so that the body was better at it and more efficient. Other genetic factors influencing East African distance runners are large lung capacity, narrow hips, thin and wiry build, strong nuchal ligament, and superior gait. Sure, they have a genetic advantage, but it is slight when compared to the contribution of environment, training, and influence. Simply put, certain athletes of specific sports have superior training methodologies and more influence and incentive to compete in certain things. Combine this with even slightly favorable genetics and you naturally get more champions. It has recently been shown that elite East African long-distance runners had to travel long distances to school and did so mostly by running. Some athletes had to run upwards of 20 kilometers per day. A good example is Haile Gebrselassie of Ethiopia. He would run 10 kilometers each way to school and back every day. When he started competing, he would run with a crooked arm. No one knew why until they figured out that it was a pattern response to having carried books every day whilst running to and from school. No wonder he's a marathon champion. A study by Sultan et al. Has shown that East African runners who use running as a mean of transport regularly during their childhood have a VO2 max up to 30% higher than those who did not grow up under such circumstances. They didn't have bicycles, so there was no chance of excelling in road cycling. Given the genetic predispositions and environmental factors, there's no reason why, if given the opportunity and steered in that direction, that East Africans wouldn't dominate the endurance sport of road cycling. Jamaicans have recently been dominating the sprint events in world-class track meets. Jamaicans are of West African descent. Previously, it was African Americans that dominated the sprinting areas, who by and part are also greatly of West African descent. One study conducted in Quebec in the mid-1980s showed that sprinters of West African descent had significantly higher percentages of fast twitch or white muscle fibers. This obviously contributes to advantages in explosive events, but let's look at a few other factors before moving on. West Africans are built for speed. They have a perfect running build with narrow hips yet large, powerful thighs. They also have muscle fiber alignment that supports rapid contraction as opposed to just high force production as seen in Northern European strongmen. What is perhaps most supportive in proving genetic dominance is what was found by exercise physiologists at the University of Glasgow and the University of West Indies. The team has begun to analyze genetic data, and their preliminary findings indicate 70% of West Africans, particularly the kind found in Jamaica, have the strong form of the ACTN3 gene, which is linked to superior sprinting performance. Genetics and environment aside, the African running phenomenon has a lot of contributing factors. One of the main one is training. Africans are well known in running circles for their grueling training practices. It is intensity, frequency, and volume of effort that makes a champion. The human body is incredibly adaptable, and will make attempts to adapt to just about any stimulus. East Africans play to their strengths, as do West African sprinters. The heart, soul, and effort that goes into their training is a major factor. So what does this tell us? People of African descent have hyper-advanced bodies that will adapt to make them better at anything they do. Sure, we see the greatest evidences of it in runners. However, there are examples, like African children, that have even been children found living with wild animals that could bound through the grass with gazelles, reaching heights and speeds generally considered impossible for humans. There are people of African descent sold to pearl diving farms in the Gulf whose lungs, hearts, and brains have adapted to reach and operate depths unmatched in history. Now that's adaptability. Africans in the diaspora are a specifically interesting case because the base African genes and DNA that they carry will adopt the best of any other grouping they are engaged with, making their strands specific, as they can take the best from their grouping while maintaining its awesome and advanced capacity. It can also negate several negative qualities that other racial genes might contribute during their coupling. The African body is advanced, point blank, period. The most important element is the capacity to learn it from someone who will take the time to teach you how you learn best. Imposed ways of teaching meant for another group of people are not effective because they do not take into account the best of you. They take into account the best of them. Two excellent examples are the African twins Peter and Paula Imafidon, the world's smartest family. The 9-year-old twin from Waltham Forest in northeast London are a part of the highest achieving clan in the history of the Great Britain education. The two youngest siblings are about to make British history as the youngest students to ever enter high school. They astounded veteran experts of academia when they became the youngest to ever pass the University of Cambridge Advanced Mathematics exam. That's on top of the fact that they have set world records when they pass the A/AS level math papers. Similarly, in Florida, Tony Hansberry, 13, at a surgery and medicine camp for kids, would achieve suturing speeds unmatched by professionals, but would also develop new methodologies and technologies for surgical suturing that reduces bloodletting and healing time. In both of these cases, a few things took place. In each of these situations, it is a whole body change that takes place in adaptation. In order for an adaptation to occur, the subconscious mind, brain, and operational functions must also be transformed. So applied mathematics, science, and intellectual areas can also be enhanced by our bodies if 1. We are consistent and persistent at doing it. 2. Include excellent training strategies that are fun and creative. 3. Receive accolades from our communities for achieving it. 4. Develop a means to use it regularly so that it is applied knowledge. Think how much good running would do if it was used actively. Dr. Clark once said that the term black is overused. He stated that it does not tell us who we are, where we're from, or what we must continue to be. Black people should call themselves advanced, holding the most prized possession in the world, being a direct descendant of the original, is a gift that cannot be replicated or imitated. In each of us is the muscle memory and abilities of our ancestors. In each of us is the overwhelming superhuman ability to fully adopt and excel at whatever we love, mentally, physically, and spiritually. In each of us is the ability to master our unique combination of traits to form a unique ability handed down to us through the millennia so that we might become better. We must find it a necessity to explore what is best for us and not accept what is best for others as being best for us. We must find methods for education, health, community, finance, and sociability that work with who we are, and we must not stop adopting those made for us. And we must stop adopting those made for others for ourselves, for the results will always pale in comparison with having our own and improving on our own one generation to the next. We are advanced, born blessed, born with a body and a mind predetermined and willing to adapt so that you might accomplish, succeed, and excel at anything you choose to do in the best interest of your people.